I've always been a simple woman. I never had luxury, but I never lacked dignity. I raised my son with what the world calls almost nothing, sewing clothes for others, baking cakes to sell at the school down the street, washing other people's laundry in the back of my house. Daniel grew up seeing my calloused hands, my tired body, but my whole heart. I never complained. Being his mother was always my greatest gift. His father died early, in a silly bus accident. Daniel was only 7. I remember the night I had to explain that his dad wasn't coming back. He didn't cry, he just laid his head in my lap and fell asleep. That day, I made a silent promise to myself. This boy won't go through what I did. He'll study, he'll have a beautiful home, and he'll be proud of the mother he has. With great effort, I bought a small plot of land at the edge of the city. I couldn't build on it right away, but it was something of our own. A future I kept folded like a birth certificate of hope inside a drawer. The years went by. Daniel grew up, studied, became a good man, or at least that's what I believed. He met Renata, a polite, modern woman, the kind who doesn't look you in the eye much but always says thank you, out of courtesy. I thought it was just shyness, but over time, I realized it was something else, distance. Not physical, emotional. They got married at the courthouse and came to live with me for a while. Times got tough. He lost his job, so did she. I supported the house the same way I always had, sewing, selling savory pies, doing whatever I could. And you know what? I did it gladly, because a real mother gives everything. But one day, Daniel came to me with an idea. Mom, we found a house in a quieter neighborhood. They offer payment plans. But we don't have the money for the down payment. He said it with his eyes downcast, like someone apologizing for existing. Do you still have that piece of land? Right then, my heart tightened. Not because I cared about the land itself, but because I knew what it meant. It was the last thing I owned. My safety net. My refuge. My piece of earth in case everything else fell apart. But when he held my hand and said, "When we have our home, it'll be your home too, Mom," I didn't hesitate. I sold it. I insisted on handing him the money myself. I saw his eyes light up. I saw Renata smile. And in that moment, I thought, it was worth it. I remember the day they signed the contract. Daniel called me. "Mom, it worked out. We got it. You're going to love the neighborhood. It's quiet, full of trees, safe. There's even a park." On the other end of the line, I smiled. On my side of life, I cried softly. He promised that as soon as everything was ready, I'd get to visit. And I believed him. In the weeks that followed, I helped however I could. I packed the meals for the moving days, sewed curtains, prepared a set of hand-embroidered bath towels. You'll love the bathroom, Mom. It even has blue tiles, just like you always dreamed of. Daniel said that with affection, and I clung to those words like they were winning lottery tickets. I kept imagining the house, a nice gate, a porch with a hammock, the kitchen smelling of fresh coffee. I pictured where I'd hang the dish towels I'd embroidered with love. I even thought about taking care of the garden, maybe planting lavender. But the days passed. The weeks turned into months. And the promise, once as warm as a son's embrace, started to cool, like coffee forgotten in a cup. Then came the excuses. "Mom, it's still under renovation." "Mom, we've got guests over." "Mom, things are hectic with Renata's job." And later, "Mom, you understand, right?" Yes, I understood. I understood every silence. Every "we'll see later." Every "we'll talk soon." I understood that the house had a gate, and maybe it wasn't being built just for protection but to keep me out. I didn't yet know how much that would hurt. But inside me, the land of hope had started to crack. I began to feel Daniel's distance the way one feels cold creeping through a crack in the window. First a slight discomfort, then a constant one, until it turns into absence, that icy emptiness that settles in your soul. At first, I tried not to give it much importance. After all, a new life requires adjustments, living in a different neighborhood, taking care of the house, adjusting to new jobs. All of that is exhausting and time-consuming. I kept telling myself, it's just a phase. Soon he'll call me. I still baked cakes on Sundays, hoping he'd show up by surprise. I'd set 3 plates on the table, fresh coffee, warm cheese bread. But he never came. Neither did she. Renata never really liked me. I could tell. She smiled out of politeness, but her eyes never smiled with her. It was as if my presence embarrassed her, as if every simple word I said was a reminder of where Daniel came from, and where she thought he didn't belong anymore. One time I called to see if they needed anything. The phone rang 3 times, and went to voicemail. I called again, same thing. On the 3rd try, she picked up. She said, hurriedly, "Hi, Lucia. Sorry, we can't talk now, we're in an online meeting." And hung up before I could say anything. A meeting? On a Saturday afternoon? That hurt, but I kept trying. I found an old towel I had embroidered for Daniel's wedding trousseau. It was white with blue details and said "Home Sweet Home," with flowers on the borders. I washed it, ironed it, folded it carefully, and put it in a bag. I decided to take it in person. That time, I heard the worst excuse. Mom, not right now. Renata has a bad headache. You know how it is, she's sensitive to light, to noise. We'll talk later, okay? I stood there on the sidewalk, holding the bag, my eyes filling with tears. I felt the heat of the asphalt rise through my body and squeeze my chest. Okay, I replied. But it wasn't. I left the bag there, in front of the glass gate, and walked away without looking back. On the way home, I realized I was becoming small in my son's life. As if my presence bothered him. As if I had only been important up to the point I could help with the land. After that, I became a burden. I started wondering, am I being a nuisance? Am I inconvenient? Is he ashamed of me? But how can you be ashamed of the hand that kneaded bread so you could grow? Of the lap that healed your childhood fevers? Of the chest that sheltered you when your father died? How can you forget where you came from? The next Sunday, I gathered courage. I made a carrot cake with chocolate frosting, his favorite, and went there without warning. I just wanted to see my boy's face hand in the cake and say, "I miss you." When I arrived, I was met by a tall, electronic gate and the guard booth, where a young man in a blue uniform looked at me with confusion. "Good morning. How can I help you?" "I'm Daniel's mother." I brought him a cake. He smiled politely and picked up the phone. I stood there, holding the dish wrapped in a kitchen towel. I waited. The guard spoke softly, but I managed to hear something like, "It's an older woman. Says she's the mother." After a few minutes that felt like hours, he returned with a different expression, more serious, and said, embarrassed, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the resident said he's not feeling well and didn't authorize your entry." It felt like something inside me shrank. I tried to swallow my shame, but it got stuck in my throat. Before I left, a young woman who worked there walked by and asked, "Do you clean here? If you're going to Mrs. Renata's house, you need to wear a uniform, okay?" I didn't answer. I just smiled with my lips, like someone who accepts the role they've been given. I went home with the still warm cake. I ate a slice alone, crying. The rest I gave to the neighbors. From that day on, I stopped trying. I waited for a gesture, a message, any sign that I still mattered. But it never came. I spent nights staring at my phone, rereading old conversations, listening to voice notes where he said, "I love you, Mom. Everything I am, I owe to you." Lies that once fed me, now wounded me. It took me a while to tell anyone. I kept the pain like a family secret. Until one day, over coffee with Mr. Jorge, an old friend of my late husband, a retired lawyer, he asked, "So, Lucia, how's Daniel's new home? Have you moved in with them yet?" I laughed, but my eyes gave away the truth. I've never been. I don't even know where it is exactly. I only know I helped pay for it. He frowned. "You helped pay for it? What do you mean?" I explained everything. Told him about the land, the promise, the rejected visits, the gate, the indifference. Mr. Jorge was silent for a while. Then he said something that still echoes in my mind. "Lucia, you realize the house deed is in your name, right? You were the one who legally bought it, even if it was to help. They're living in your house." In that moment, I felt a mix of indignation, disbelief, and sadness. He went on. If you wanted, you could take it all back. Legally, you have that right. But I didn't want any of that. I just wanted my son. I wanted to walk through the front door, smell Sunday lunch, hear him call me Mom, in that childish tone that still lives inside us. But it seems Daniel built more than walls in that condominium. He built a wall. A tall, cold, invisible wall. A wall that separated me from his heart. And I, who had always been a woman of the earth, began to understand that I was standing on ground that no longer wanted me. I spent days thinking about what Mr. Jorge had told me. The idea that the house was still in my name seemed absurd. Useless. What did I want with paperwork when what I was looking for was love? I wasn't interested in reclaiming a house. I wanted to reclaim my son. But his silence, the distance, the refusal to see me, it all started to suffocate me. That's when I decided to do something I had never done before. Reach out to a lawyer. Not to sue. Not to fight. Just to understand. What was rightfully mine? What had I signed? What was the real value of what I gave up without a second thought, with the blind trust of a mother who believes love is enough? The lawyer, recommended by Mr. Jorge, listened to me patiently. A young man with a calm, gentle voice, who seemed to carry more empathy than most his age. He asked for document copies, helped me organize everything. And in the end, he confirmed what I feared. The house was mine. The deed, the property registration, everything was linked to my tax ID. The land that had been sold was in my name. Daniel, to make financing easier, had asked that the property be formalized under my name. He said he'd fix it later. But he never did. And now, even though he had been living there for months, with his wife and a new life, I was, legally, the owner. I left the office with my head spinning. I walked home slowly, trying to figure out where everything had gone off track. I had given everything I had, and in return I received contempt, silence, erasure. I started noticing the details I had once ignored. Daniel didn't call anymore. Not even on my birthday. Renata had blocked me on social media. And even though they had my number saved, not a single message, not a good morning, not even a photo of their new home. They had erased my existence. One night, I didn't sleep. I just sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the hands that raised him. Hands that once cleaned up fevered vomit, changed diapers, served warm meals on chipped plates. Hands that gave everything. The next day, I asked the lawyer to prepare the extrajudicial notice. When the postman rang the bell at the condominium, delivering an envelope with my name as sender, Daniel must have felt the shock. I wasn't seeking revenge, but I wanted to be heard. I wanted him to look me in the eyes and tell me the truth, that shame mattered more than gratitude. That status weighed heavier than a mother's love. 2 days later, he called me. His voice was trembling. Mom, you sent me a document. Is this serious? Daniel, I just want to talk. You don't listen to me. Don't see me. Don't answer me. This is all I have left. But the house, it's where Renata and I live. I know. That's why I sold my land. To give you a home. But you closed the door on me, son. Silence. He set a meeting. We sat in a quiet cafe downtown. He arrived tense, without his wife. He wore expensive clothes, a branded watch, polished shoes. He looked like a different man, and in a way, he looked at me strangely, as if it was hard to remember that the woman sitting in front of him was the mother who raised him. Mom, I don't know what to say. Start with the truth. Why did you push me away? He lowered his eyes. Renata, she thinks our background gets in the way of our image. That her circle, her friends, the neighbors, wouldn't understand. Gets in the way of what, Daniel? I'm your mother, not a burden. He sighed. I tried to avoid conflict. She's sensitive, demanding. And I wanted peace. I wanted things to run smoothly. So I stayed quiet. And, in that silence, I started leaving you behind. I felt a strange pain in my chest. It wasn't anger. It was grief. As if the son I raised had died, and in his place sat a stranger afraid of his own past. Did you know you could lose me when you chose comfort over me? It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, Daniel. I never asked for anything. I just wanted to be part of it. Not of the house. Of your life. He stayed silent, swallowing the words he never said. The house is mine, son. And I could take it back. But I won't do it to hurt you. I'll do it for me. To close this chapter. You left me outside, and now I'm the one closing that gate. I stood up, picked up my purse. But before leaving, I placed on the table a copy of the document demanding the property be vacated within 30 days. I don't want promises anymore. Or apologies. I want peace. And I'll only find it far from this lie that your house has become. He tried to say something, but I walked away. Without hate. Without resentment. On the way home, the tears came. Not from anger, but from grief. Because in that moment, I buried what was left of my role as a mother in that story. When I left the envelope on the table and walked out of the cafe, a part of me still hoped he would come after me. That he'd run, call my name, beg for forgiveness, like in the movies. But he didn't. I walked away alone. And strangely, there was peace in that silence. In the days that followed, I didn't receive a call. Not even a message. The phone stayed silent, as if it wanted to prove I had done the right thing. Sometimes, absence is the harshest confirmation of all. The following week, the eviction notice was officially delivered. The news spread through the building faster than gossip at a market. Someone saw it, someone mentioned it, and within days I heard from a longtime neighbor that Daniel was in crisis. According to her, he missed work 3 days in a row. Renata was seen leaving alone, scowling, speaking loudly on the phone. No one knew exactly what was happening, but everyone could sense that something was crumbling behind that facade of perfection. I didn't want revenge. I never did. But there's a kind of justice that isn't written on paper. It's found in the eyes of someone who once denied love and is now drowning in their own emptiness. The lawyer called me. Mrs. Lucia, your son is trying to renegotiate. He wants to talk. He's shaken. I asked him to wait. I needed time to think. On a Wednesday morning, I was surprised by a knock at my gate. It was him, Daniel, standing there, thin, worn down, his eyes sunken, as if he hadn't slept in days. I opened the gate. I stayed silent.
So, did he?
Can I come in? I nodded. He entered like someone stepping into sacred ground. He sat on the old wooden chair in the kitchen, where he'd had so many coffees with bread and margarine. He looked around as if recognizing each object for the first time. How long has it been since I came here? 2 years and 8 months.
My voice came out dry.
It wasn't out of spite, just the truth. He lowered his head. Mom, I'm lost. I messed up so badly and now everything's falling apart. I waited. Renata told me that if I lose the house, she's leaving. She says she can't live with this instability. But at the same time, she never wanted you around. She's ashamed, and I let that poison me. I closed my eyes.
His pain was clear now.
But it didn't erase what he'd done. Were you ashamed of me, Daniel? He hesitated. I was. But not of you. I was ashamed of what I thought I had to hide to be accepted. I wanted to seem like someone I never was. And in doing that, I erased you. And if I hadn't done anything, if I had stayed silent, would you have remembered me one day? Or only when I died?
He cried.
Lowered his head, his shoulders shaking like a lost little boy. Forgive me, Mom. I just wanted to be successful. I wanted to prove I had made it. And in the end, I lost what mattered most. I sat in front of him. Do you know what I used to do when you were little and got sick at night? He shook his head. I would sit on the floor beside your bed and hold your hand. I'd stay there, just listening to your breathing.
To make sure you were alive.
That you were going to be okay. I wouldn't sleep, wouldn't eat. I just wanted you to breathe. Do you understand? A mother's love is like that. It expects nothing in return. But it also won't accept being treated as invisible. He looked up. His eyes were red, teary, broken. I know I don't deserve it. But can I try to change? Just give me a chance. You want me to give up the house? I want us to start over. From where we left off. from where you should have never been removed. I thought for a while. The hurt was still there, like a thorn stuck deep. But something inside me said this was a turning point, and that maybe for the first time, he was looking at me as a son, not a man chasing status. The house is just walls. But what you broke was what we had between us. And that only you can rebuild. Brick by brick. He nodded. I'm willing, even if it takes the rest of my life. We stayed in silence. For the first time, a silence that didn't hurt. It was an emptiness being filled with presence, with remorse, with truth. Before leaving, he hugged me. A long, tight hug, soaked with the tears flowing from both of us. I love you, Mom. I love you too, son. But love has to be seen.
Felt. Lived.
Promise me that this time, you won't close the gate. I promise. If you let me, I'll come open it myself. Every Sunday. I smiled. A small smile, but a genuine one. And for the first time in years, I saw a boy in his eyes. My boy. Daniel's hug was the foundation I needed, but it also brought a bittersweet feeling. Part of me wanted to believe that everything could be fixed at once, like a wound closing without leaving a scar. But I knew the road ahead would be long. And the hardest part would be facing what still stood behind the wall Daniel had built around me. In the Sundays that followed, he really did come. He never missed a visit. He picked me up by car, with Renata, who wore a stern face, but remained in a distant silence. She didn't look at me, didn't greet me. It felt like she was merely tolerating my presence, her gaze heavy with unspoken thoughts. I didn't want her as an enemy, but the discomfort she caused me was palpable. One morning, Daniel came alone. His eyes were puffy, as if he'd been crying, though he wouldn't admit it. Mom, I need to tell you something. Go ahead, son. What happened? Renata and I argued. She doesn't understand why you're present in my life again. She can't accept that you're here, this close to me. Is she still afraid of me, Daniel? Or is she ashamed? He didn't respond right away. The words got stuck, as if he was afraid of hurting me further. She's afraid. Afraid of losing control. She thinks our relationship will affect our future. And what do you want, Daniel? What's more important, building a life with her or rebuilding your life with me? Mom, it's not that simple. It's not an easy choice. I think you already made that choice without realizing it. No, Mom, I didn't. I just
don't want you to feel bad.
But I can't keep playing this game. If I give up everything I've built, she'll leave. I took a deep breath. The frustration surged again, but I knew there was nothing more I could do except wait. What could I say? I knew Daniel was torn between the family he had built and the one he came from. But that divide seemed to be destroying everything he once believed in. It was as if he had to choose between living the truth or maintaining the facade. Daniel, you can't live your whole life bound to promises that no longer make sense. I love you, and I will support you. But you need to learn to make choices for yourself. What do you want for your life, son? He lowered his eyes and didn't respond right away. I knew rebuilding our relationship would be a complex process, but what worried me most was how he was dealing with Renata's pressure, and how, in some way, she seemed to be an ever-growing barrier. That Sunday, she wasn't in the car. Only Daniel came, and he looked more exhausted than usual. His face bore the marks of sleepless nights. The weight of lies was beginning to crush him. I can't keep lying, Mom. I feel like I'm betraying you all the time, but I don't know how to deal with it. I'm still the same person, but now everything feels so hard. I know, son. I know it's hard, but that's what life demands of you. To face your fears and insecurities, to put aside your pride, and not let the fear of loss stop you from doing what's right. I'm lost, Mom. I don't know who I am anymore. Who I've become. The silence that followed was heavy. I looked at him, trying to understand what he was going through. But at the same time, I felt helpless. The Daniel in front of me was a broken man, struggling against the expectations that life and his wife had placed on him. Then he said the sentence that made me realize he was at a breaking point. I'm thinking about selling the house, Mom. So we can live together again. So I don't have to go on like this, divided. You want to sell the house to live with me?
Yes.
I don't want this luxury anymore, this burden. I just want peace. I just want to be a son, Mom. I don't know how to be a husband or a friend anymore. I felt a mix of surprise and sorrow. He was willing to give up everything, all his security, for a moment of peace. But I knew that peace wouldn't come from selling a house. It had to come from within. And somehow, I knew he was asking for forgiveness. Daniel, the house is yours. I gave it to you because you needed it. But my home, my son, was never made of bricks. It was made of love. And you'll find that love where it has always been, within yourself. He hugged me again, this time in silence. The hug was stronger, longer, as if he was seeking the same love he had lost in his attempt to become someone he wasn't. When he left, the house was silent, but something inside me began to settle. I knew his journey was far from over, but he had taken the first step toward truth. That night, the phone rang. It was Renata. The first time in months that she tried to speak to me. Lucia, I need to talk to you. Go ahead, Renata. I know you don't like me, and I never liked you. But I have to be honest. I feel like I'm losing Daniel. And maybe it's time to stop fighting what no longer makes sense. In that moment, something inside me calmed. Renata was beginning to see, somehow, what I had already known. She no longer had control. What she did or didn't do didn't matter anymore. Daniel was freeing himself. I wanted to help her, to show her that we didn't need to be enemies. That, in truth, all I wanted was for her and Daniel to find balance. But that would only happen if she stopped hiding the past. I went to sleep with the feeling that, finally, the closed gate was no longer a barrier. It was just a passage.